Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Kalachanji Radha Kalachanji Shri Radhe Shri Radha Madhava Ki Shri Radha Kalachanji Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Let's recite together. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottama Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tarojara Udirayat Nastraya Padreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Vaitmani Utmasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Mahavishnu Swami Iti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Alright, so we'll be reading Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, Chapter 4, text. Hold on. (28 to 36). Text 28 to 36. Hare Krishna. So, text 28. Yeah, we can take turns. Okay. Text 28. The king inquired, at the end of the pastimes of the Lord of the three worlds, Shri. Let me pull it up on here. Sorry. Okay, text 28. The king inquired at the end of the pastimes of the Lord of the three worlds, Sri Krishna, and after the disappearance of the members of the Vrishni and Bhoja dynasties, who were the best of the great commanders, why did Uddhava alone remain? Text 29. Shukadev Goswami replied, My dear king, the cursing of the Brahmanas was only a plea, but the actual fact was the supreme desire of the Lord. He wanted to disappear from the face of the earth after dispatching his excessively numerous family members. He thought to himself as follows, Now I shall leave the vision of this mundane world, and I see that Uddhava, the foremost of my devotees, is the only one who can be directly entrusted with the knowledge about me. Uddhava is not inferior to me in any way, because he is never affected by the modes of material nature. Therefore, he may remain in this world in order to disseminate specific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. Shukadev Goswami informed the king that Uddhava, being thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the source of all Vedic knowledge and the spiritual master of the three worlds, reached the pilgrimage site of Badari Ashram and engaged himself there in trance to satisfy the Lord. Vidura also heard from Uddhava about the appearance of the disappearance of Lord Krishna, the Supersoul, in the mortal world, which is a subject matter sought after with great perseverance by the great sages. The Lord's glorious acts and his acceptance of various transcendental forms of the performance of extraordinary pastimes in the mortal world are very difficult for anyone other than his devotees to understand, and for the beasts they are simply a mental disturbance. Understanding that he was remembered by Lord Krishna while quitting this world, Vidura began to cry loudly, overwhelmed by the ecstasy of love. After passing a few days on the bank of the river Yamuna, Vidura, the self-realized soul, reached the bank of the Ganges, where the great sage Maitreya was situated. So that was text 36. Now let's go to text 31. That's the verse for today. Nodavonvapi manyuno. Nodhavonvapi manyuno. Yadguner nardita prabhu. Atomad vayunam lokam. Grahayan iha tishtatu. Nodavanvapi manyuno. Yadguner nardita prabhu. Atomad vayunam lokam. Grahayan iha tishtatu. Please chant, even though we don't have a mic. Nodavanvapi manyuno. Yadguner nardita prabhu. Atodmad vayanam lokam. Grahayan iha. Nodavanvapi manyuno. Yadguner nardita prabhu. Nodavonvapi manyuno. Yadguner nardita prabhu. Atomad vayunam lokam. Grahayan iha tishtatu. Nodhavonvapi manyuno. Yadguner nardita prabhu. Atomad vayunam lokam. Grahayan iha tishtatu. Nodhavonvapi manyuno. Yadguner nardita prabhu. Atomad vayunam lokam. Grahayan iha tishtatu. Okay. Word for word, we'll say it together. Na, not. Udava, udava. Anu, slightly. Api, also. Mat, to myself. Nyunaha, inferior. Yat, because. Gunai, by the modes of material nature. Na, nor. Arditaha, affected. Prabhu, master. Ataha, therefore. Mat vayunam, knowledge of me, the personality of Godhead. Lokam, the world. Grahayan, just to disseminate. Iha, in this world. Tishtatu, may remain. Translation: Uddhava is not inferior to me in any way because he's never affected by the modes of material nature. Therefore, he may remain in this world in order to disseminate specific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. The purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The specific qualification for becoming the representative of the Lord is to be unaffected by the modes of nature. The highest qualification of a person in the material world is to be a Brahmana. But since a Brahmana is in the mode of goodness, to be a Brahmana is not sufficient for becoming a representative of the Lord. One has to transcend the modes of goodness and be situated in unalloyed goodness, unaffected by any qualities of material nature. This stage of transcendental qualification is called Shuddha Sattva or Vasudev. And in this stage, the science of God can be realized. As the Lord is not affected by the modes of material nature, so a pure devotee of the Lord is also not affected by the modes of material nature. That is the primary qualification for being one with the Lord. A person who is able to attain this transcendental qualification is called Jivan Mukta, or liberated, even though he's apparently in material conditions. This liberation is achieved by one who constantly engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is stated, Iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasa griha nikalasvapya vastatsu jivan mukta sa uchyate. Anyone who by his actions, mind and words lives only for the transcendental loving service of the Lord is certainly a liberated soul, even though he may appear to be in a condition of material existence. Uddhava was in such a transcendental position, and thus when he was selected to be the factual representative of the Lord in his bodily absence from the vision of the world, such a devotee of the Lord is never affected by material strength, intelligence, or even renunciation. Such a devotee of the Lord can withstand all onslaughts of material nature, and therefore he is known as Goswami. Only such Goswamis can penetrate the mysteries of the Lord's transcendental loving relationships. Nodava nvapi man nuno yadguner nardita prabhu ato mad vayunam lokam grahayan ihatishtatu. Uddhava is not inferior to me in any way because he is never affected by the modes of material nature. Therefore, he may remain in this world in order to disseminate specific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. Om Gyanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshura Militam Yena Tasma Shri Guru Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimate Vishnu Swami Tinamini Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamini. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please bless me that I may speak something of importance today. Senior devotees, please forgive me for any offenses I might make. So this verse is talking about Uddhava. Specifically, this verse is talking about becoming a representative of the Lord, and that representative's relationship with the modes of material nature. So Uddhava was a perfect representative of Krishna. So that means he was fully in consciousness of Krishna. This kind of seems unable to attain such a high platform. At least for me, seems very impossible to reach. But this doesn't mean that we can never be on that platform, because Srila Prabhupada set up this Krishna consciousness movement as a training method for us to rise to that platform of becoming a perfect representative of Krishna. The example given by Prabhupada is that Shri Shri Radha Kalachandji Ki, Prabhupada gives this example of an iron rod being placed in a fire, and the rod is associating with fire, and it's just by association it becomes like the fire. It develops the same qualities as the fire. So similarly, association is very powerful. So all we have to do is associate with representatives of Krishna, bona fide representatives, and then we'll develop the same qualities, just like the rod being placed in the fire. Representative means non-different, perfectly exemplifying the qualities of. Another example Prabhupada would give is that people want to approach God directly, and it's near impossible. So he gives this analogy of trying to approach the president. One wouldn't just walk into the White House and demand to see the president. You'll probably get arrested or shot down. You have to approach his representative first. So the secretary or vice president, Jai. So in order to approach the president, you need to approach his representative. So similarly, we can't approach God directly because we're too fallen, at least for me. So we need to approach his representative. There's many different representatives of God, of Krishna. In this example, Uddhava was given. So if we associate with representatives like Uddhava, then we'll automatically develop qualities like them. If we want to, this whole process is set up so that we can develop qualities like Krishna, developing qualities like Krishna's representatives is non-different from developing qualities like Krishna, because Krishna and his representatives are one of the same. We worship Guru just as we worship Krishna. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado. So, we need to develop qualities like Krishna, such as compassion and mercy. Representative means perfect example. So there's no deviation or watering down of the character or the version. Uddhava came to this platform or stage of perfection, and Krishna is so merciful to us that he's given us this entire formula to come to that same stage of perfection. It's all given here in Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam is the process that we have in this age that we can just use to our advantage to come to the same platform as Uddhava and all of Krishna's representatives. So if we just follow the process, then we will get to that same platform. And this isn't any mundane process, this is a scientific process. So if we follow it, we'll slowly become purified. It's a gradual process, or it can be a very quick process. One person, one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples asked him once, how many lifetimes will it take to attain perfection and go back to Godhead? And Prabhupada, he just like totally spit in the face of the idea of lifetimes. He said it can take just 1 minute. That's all it takes. Just 1 minute fixed on Krishna. So every arti we attend, every round we chant, every moment we get with senior devotees, every act of devotional service we perform, every process we take, every step of the process we take in bhakti yoga will slowly purify our minds and our hearts. And this is the process that Srila Prabhupada has given us. This is the process we can take if we want to become a representative of Krishna. Yes, Esther? What makes someone a senior devotee? Well, Paramatma in our heart, the small piece of Krishna in our heart, that can help guide us to kind of give us insight of who's actually senior or who's kind of not so bona fide or unauthorized. We can use our discernment. You can tell someone's very humble or performing the most menial service, and they've been in the movement for 40, 50 years, and there's a great saint in our movement named Jayananda Prabhu, and this is a good story actually. There was a newcomer that came to the temple, and he was learning about devotional service and bhakti yoga and Krishna consciousness, and it was probably his first day there, and they were trying to engage him in devotional service. So this one devotee in the temple said, come with me, you can help clean up the temple, collect some garbage. And this was in New York. So he was picking up garbage bags, and he put it in this truck they had, and he drove it to the dump. And he was just associating with this devotee. He thought he was also like a new devotee. This newcomer to this devotee that was instructing him brought him to the dump. They started unloading the bags, and this newcomer asked this devotee, are you also new to this? And he said, I'm just the local garbage man. But he was actually the temple president, and he was taking a very humble approach. He was just a very humble soul. But this is how you can tell who's senior. If they're not announcing it, they're not like that. So, association with senior devotees, just like the rod in the fire gets the qualities of the fire. If we associate with those senior devotees, we will get the qualities of them, just like humility, mercy, compassion. And these people are these devotees, they're worth worship. There's many kinds of gurus. There's shiksha and diksha gurus. Diksha is a formal guru that we take shelter of, and we make vows to, lifelong promises. And then there's Shiksha gurus that we see as mentors, and we take kind of informal shelter and instruction from. Our Diksha guru, or our spiritual master, won't be on this material world forever. So Shiksha gurus, mentors, instructors are very important because we can take shelter of them when we no longer have the physical association of our spiritual master. Our spiritual master is always associating with us through his instruction and through his teachings. But for people like me that need are very, very much neophytes and need physical approach, I would need someone like a Shiksha guru, an instructor, someone physically present to instruct me. So by offering service and surrendering to these people, spiritual master, guru, Shiksha, or Diksha, one is elevated to devotional service, and by performing that devotional service, one gradually becomes attached to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because of this attachment to the Lord, one can understand that the Lord, when we perform devotional service, we develop attachment to Krishna. So by that attachment comes understanding. In other words, one can understand what the Lord's position is, what our position is, and what our relationship is with Krishna. All this can be understood by the simple method of bhakti yoga. As soon as one is situated in the platform of bhakti yoga, then all of one's suffering and material bondage is destroyed. And like I said before, this process can either take lifetimes or 1 minute. It depends on your sincerity and your ability to surrender. Our spiritual consciousness actually depends on our self-perception as a servant. So the more we fall into the mood of a servant, then the more we can become spiritually realized. It's said one should not become guru if he doesn't take on that responsibility as a service rather than a position or a title or for fame. Even Krishna came to this world as a servant, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He came as the form of a servant to try to understand or feel the mood of bhakti and the bliss one experiences when performing devotional service. So if we take the position of a servant, then we can come to that platform of the representative of the Lord. There's a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It says, Amara agaya guru hana tara e desha, yare deka tare kaha Krishna upadesha. And the translation is, instruct everyone to follow the orders of Lord Sri Krishna as they are given in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, become a spiritual master and try to liberate everyone in this land. So this is Krishna in the form of Lord Chaitanya instructing his disciples, instructing us through Chaitanya Charitamrita to also instruct everyone we meet about the glories of Krishna, the instruction and guidance that we get from Bhagavad Gita, and the spiritual process that we have in Bhagavatam to come to the platform of surrender and the platform of a bona fide representative. And in this way, if we follow that process and spread Krishna's name and kind of tell others about this spiritual process, then that person becomes guru. But first you have to get yourself to the platform of representative. Also in Bhagavad Gita it says, so this verse talks a lot about the modes of material nature. It says, Uddhava is not inferior to me in any way because he is never affected by the modes of material nature. So in this material world, we're bound by these modes of material nature. There's 3 modes of material nature: ignorance, passion, and goodness. And they're called Raja, Tamas, and Sattva. So Slowly we rise through these modes, but we're always bouncing back and forth through all three of them. The mode of material nature that is most inclined towards spiritual life is the mode of goodness. You can look at animals in nature and see kind of their modes. So cows are very peaceful, they're very calm and docile, and they're considered to be in the mode of goodness. This great guru in our movement, his name is Vaisheshika Puru. I was with him in Vrindavan, and he would give this example of the modes of material nature being exemplified in nature and with animals. Cows, there's many cows in Vrindavan. They're just roaming the streets. Often people get a cow as a gift to their family, and the family kind of can't really take care of it, so they just set it free through the streets, and the cows are just wandering the streets. And there's many projects set up by ISKCON to kind of protect these cows, because they'll eat garbage in the streets or get hit by cars. But the point I'm trying to make is that these cows, they'll kind of run into each other and try to take each other's food or something, and they'll bump each other with their horns. But they're so peaceful that one cow could bump another cow with his horn and smack him in the face, basically. And the cow would be totally like unbothered, totally peaceful, and just stay there. Maybe he'll like move a little, but he won't get so disturbed. And also in Vrindavan, there's many monkeys that kind of roam around and cause trouble and mayhem. And Vaisheshika Puru gives the example that these cows are in the mode of goodness, but the monkeys, you even look at them the wrong way, and they'll totally freak out or attack you. So they're considered to be in the mode of passion, some in ignorance, but definitely passion. They're very passionate and ready to fight. But these cows are just totally peaceful. And there's other examples we can use, but the point is the mode of goodness is the most conducive for spiritual life. So the mode of passion and ignorance are very low platforms. The mode of ignorance is the lowest platform. So if someone is very depressed, he's in the mode of ignorance. If someone has a lot of mental turmoil, then they'll be very bogged down with the miseries of life, and they'll stay at a very low vibration. And they can rise out of this mode through coming up the modes. So the mode of ignorance can be, you can come out of it by rising to the mode of passion. If someone's very depressed and sleeping all day, not bathing, not having very clean hygienic principles, this is the mode of ignorance. And ghosts and demons are attracted to this. A person like this, they'll have lots of entities, negative entities being attracted to them. To rise out of this, though, some would say you can take to the mode of passion, start, exercising, doing yoga, cleaning. These things can rise to the mode of passion, but it's still very fiery and very chaotic. It's a little above the mode of ignorance, but you're still not all there. You're not so centered. So after you get to the mode of passion, then you can rise to the mode of goodness. Once, let's say you're you have friends coming over, and you kind of panic clean your house. This is like the mode of passion. You're frantically trying to get everything done and everything cleaned, and you shove all your clothes in your closet or something, and it looks clean, but it's not so clean, So this is the mode of passion. The mode of goodness would be taking every single piece of clothing, folding it nicely, putting it away nicely. So this we can understand the different modes. So there's a really nice Bhagavad Gita verse I wanted to share. It goes, Daivi yesha guna mayi mama maya durate yaya mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross behind it. As long as one is in the material world, he has to be under the influence of the modes of material nature, ignorance, passion, and goodness. So Krishna is saying here that this divine energy of mine consist of these three modes. This material nature, it's all his energy, and they consist of the three modes, ignorance, passion, and goodness. And they're very difficult to overcome. Like I was saying, one can get really bogged down with the mode of ignorance. It's very easy to get stuck in that mode because it's kind of like it doesn't take much effort. It takes effort to be in the mode of goodness, to stay clean, to chant your rounds, to read Bhagavatam, to clean your room, to stay healthy. All these things take much effort, and Krishna sees this effort. If you're staying clean and taking care of your body, this is actually a service. These are not our bodies. We always say these bodies. We're not these bodies, but who do these bodies belong to? They belong to Krishna. So taking care of these bodies is a good service to Krishna, so that we can go out on Sankirtan and do our service. So things like taking care of these bodies and staying clean, and this is in the mode of goodness. And it takes effort, much effort. At least for me, chanting my rounds takes a lot of effort. So these things can help us elevate our consciousness to the higher modes of material nature. There's another Bhagavad Gita verse that says, sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance. O son of Bharat, sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there's always competition for supremacy. So in this verse, Krishna is saying that these modes of material nature are constantly competing with each other to try and bewilder our minds the most, to try and compete for supremacy, it says. Goodness, we might be in that mode one day, and then the next day we might be in the mode of ignorance. It's constantly changing. It's never the same. And the goal isn't even goodness, even though goodness, the mode of goodness is the most conducive for our personal spiritual life, our sadhana. This isn't even the goal. The goal is to transcend these three modes, because these three modes are on the material platform. We go out on a lot of book distribution here. When I was in New York, I was doing a lot of books, and I would meet a lot of people and preach to them. And a lot of people I would meet in New York, especially a lot of young people are very into spiritual life. And they're very into certain practices or substances, and they think, they're getting very spiritual from these things, like certain drugs or certain processes or procedures or whatever. They think they're becoming spiritual from this, but when I would preach to them, I would try to listen to them and hear their experience. I met some people who say they would go to like the Amazon rainforest and like take this special like jungle medicine, and they would see things and it would open their mind, and maybe it opens their mind to certain ideas or certain concepts that are bigger than what we can experience normally with a sober mind. But at the same time, all these substances are still material. So people are trying to get spiritual by using material things. So it's kind of counterintuitive. It's self-defeating philosophy. It's impossible to rise to a spiritual platform by using material substances. So this is why following the regular principles are very important. No intoxication, it kind of bewilders our mind. People, like I was saying, people think they're rising to a higher platform by taking these intoxicants, but really they're still stuck on the material plane, because all of these substances are purely material. So if we're trying to rise out of these three modes of material nature, then we need to find a process or a substance that is spiritual. And if it comes from this earth, if it's found, in the ground as a plant or from a laboratory, it's not going to really connect us with Krishna. The only thing that will connect us with Krishna is by chanting his names and performing devotional service. as is the process mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. This process, if we follow it, we can become like Guru, we can become representative of Krishna, which also means being non-different than Krishna. There's many representatives of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada would often get a lot of questions from Christians asking about Jesus Christ. And even as a book distributor, I get asked a lot by Christians, do you see Jesus as a representative of God? Or do you see Jesus as God? Srila Prabhupada answered this nicely. He says, there is no difference. If Lord Jesus Christ says, through me, that means he's representative of God. And Harinam is God. So therefore, through the representative of God, or God, is the same thing. God and God's representative, there's no difference. So, he went on to say, even in this ordinary dealings, if I send some representative, if he signs something on my behalf, this is just a mundane example, if you send a representative to receive a package or something on your behalf, the postal worker, mail carrier, courier has to accept that because that person is your representative. So similarly, God has to be approached through his representative, or through God. It's the same thing. The only difference is the understanding or the level of comprehension. So one must accept the pure devotee, the representative of God, as one's guru, and then offer him all the same respects that one would offer the Supreme Personality of God. And this is the secret of success. For one who adopts this method, the perfect process is revealed, and then we can actually come to the same platform. There's this quote Srila Prabhupada used, "Unto the great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master, all the imports of Vedic knowledge are automatically revealed. One must accept the pure devotee, the representative of God, as one's guru, and then offer him all the respects one would offer the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is for one who accepts this method, the perfect process is revealed." So it's just stated over and over in Shastra that if we meet or come in contact with a bona fide representative that's representing Krishna perfectly, then he should be honored the same way we would honor Krishna. And if we take his association, then we can come to the same platform as him. If we take his association, then we can develop the same qualities as him. And in that way, we'll develop the same qualities as Krishna, because a representative has the same qualities, the same principles, the same standards as the person that they're representing. So I think that's all I have today. But to wrap things up, I'll just say that I'll reiterate that this whole process Srila Prabhupada gave us is clearly stated in Bhagavatam. We can come to the stage of pure devotional service and the high stage of perfection by following this process he gave. And like Prabhupada said, it can take many lifetimes or 1 minute. It all depends on our sincerity and our devotion. So Uddhava was a bona fide perfect representative of Krishna, and he was beyond the 3 modes of material nature. In the verse, he's never affected by the modes of material nature. So therefore, he may remain in this world to disseminate specific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. Are any questions, chastisements? Just to do my proof.
So it's saying that because he's never affected by the modes of material nature, he may remain to disseminate specific knowledge of Krishna. So I'm wondering how this kind of applies to us. Now, I know I'm not free from material modes of nature, but still we're also instructed to disseminate this knowledge. So what can we do about this situation? We're not free yet, but still we've been told to disseminate.
Well, slowly we can purify ourselves and slowly rise above. Like I said before, everything we do in our spiritual life, in our sadhana, every round we chant or every like Mangal Arti that we make it for on time will slowly help us rise above this. And yeah.
I was actually thinking about the same thing, and I was thinking that, that the pure devotee of the Lord, who doesn't care where he's at, he doesn't care if he's in hell, or if he's in heaven, or if he's in the spiritual world, he's always preaching, always speaking about Krishna. However, Srila Prabhupada encouraged us not to think like that, in the sense of that we should try to go back home, get back home. Don't think this is the last night life, get back there. So it's kind of those two conflicting ideas, but from our spiritual master, Sri Prabhupada, let's go back home, let's go, and then we get to a platform where the modes of material nature are no longer affecting us, and we can talk. We make some adjustments after that.
Yeah, it's kind of conflicting because in certain shastra it tells us, if we're able to control the senses, the urges of the mind, belly, and genitals, then we're able to make disciples all over the world. One is granted the position of guru if we're able to do that. And even in the purport here, if you scroll down to the last sentence, it says, such a devotee of the Lord can withstand all onslaughts of material nature, and therefore he is known as Goswami. Only such Goswamis can penetrate the mysteries of the Lord's transcendental loving relationships. So Goswami means controller of the senses. You've completely controlled all your senses. So if you're able to control all your senses, then you're able to become guru. So just my thoughts on this verse is he's saying the second sentence, therefore he may remain in this world in order to disseminate specific knowledge. But Prabhupada was saying the goal is to go back to Godhead. But it's also said in Shastra that the Guru must remain in the material world until all his disciples are liberated. So if everyone's supposed to become Guru, and everyone's supposed to go back to Godhead at the same time, it's kind of tough to... those are just my thoughts. Any questions? Yeah. 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 Yeah, I like that point, passing on the knowledge. And the jnana or knowledge that is being passed down is completely pure. Just like at the time of initiation, the Guru gives us his mercy. So although we may not be qualified to rise to the platform beyond the modes of material nature, we may not be qualified to, even seek out spiritual life. The Guru gives us his mercy. So at the time of initiation, he even passes down the mantra, the Maha Mantra. It's Harinam initiation. So he'll pass down this mantra, and it's pure spiritual sound vibration. So whatever anarthas or uncleanliness we have in our consciousness or hearts, the mantra is pure, and the knowledge we get in Srila Prabhupada's books is pure. So it's a great point. Yes, Janaki? Yeah.
Which is like, they're all hippies, they're, younger than 30 years old, 20, 30 years old. And, but what he meant by that was that moment by moment as we're serving, that's what puts us above the most. So we might think like, on a bigger scale we see like, I'm not pure, I'm not using 24 hours a day, or I'm not, thinking of Krishna all the time. But just moment by moment, if we're picking up a service based on this attitude of, I want to serve the spiritual master, I want to serve Prabhupada, I want to serve Krishna, I want to be a servant, and that's what makes us pure. And so it's much easier if we take that moment by moment. So to put ourselves above the modes, in that moment we can just think, I will do this, even though I might not be perfect, I might, whatever, shortcoming I might have, but I'll do this because I'm a servant, and that's what makes us pure.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, Hannah?
All around the world who are utilizing the resources of the earth and the things that Krishna has given us to be able to restore and heal. And I also want to honor the recognition that we don't technically even some of the beings that know how to drink from the sunlight and primarily live from the Brahma, from the sun. Technically, very little, if any, food is even needed in those stories of them. But I just I'm feeling in the heart that if Krishna gave us these modes of material nature, but is transcendent of them, then as we are offering up the material modes of nature and that which we participate in this material plane and offering that up to Krishna, then I witness many blessings upon tribes who choose to partake in medicines to transcend material modes of nature and to eventually come into a place, hopefully with the blessings of Krishna and the Gurus, that the material things are no longer needed, because as we are returning to these beautiful participations of our beloved one, that anything that may be material begins to fall away naturally and organically.
Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva dharma prityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshishyami masuchaha, which means give up all your ideas of religion and just surrender unto me. So, with all respect to different tribes or cultures, they have their own philosophies and ideas about religion and what is the process to come to spiritual realization. But Krishna is saying you should just give up all these ideas that you have and just surrender unto him. So maybe some medicine that's given in some jungle tribe can help someone come to a higher mode of material nature. But ultimately, it's not recommended in the Vedas. It's not Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is not recommending taking any of this. And ultimately, it's our job as servants of Krishna, servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to kind of spread the holy names to every town and village of the world. So they don't have the understanding that they need to give these things up and they need to surrender to Krishna. So it's our duty, our responsibility to spread Srila Prabhupada's books to every single jungle hut and town and village, so they can come to this spiritual understanding and become a representative of Krishna, just like Uddhava. Yeah, I think so.
We got out of time. Lauren had a question.
I just wanted to, thank you so much for your class. I just wanted to share with you what resonated with me. Just yesterday I was reading the 8th canto, chapter 3, which told the story of the Jenda. And in your class we were talking about how can you move up from the modes of material nature. And I'd always heard, that famous verse that you quoted from Bhagavad Gita, Dayalu Harinam. Krishna says it's really hard, but all you gotta do is surrender, and then it's so easy. I never really understood, what does that mean, surrender, it's so easy. But in the story of Vijayendra, he had been a king, and then he took birth in an elephant body. And the eighth canto would explain he was having this fabulous day, playing with his family in the water, and he was spraying each other. And then a crocodile grabbed his ankle, and he spent 1,000 years fighting with the crocodile, and demigods were watching it. His wives are crying, and after about 1,000 years of fighting to save his body, he came to the conclusion, I'm going to die, and all these people that I love, that I've spent my lifetime with, are watching me, and they can't help me. And the demigods are watching me, and they can't help me. And he remembers the prayer of his past life, honoring Lord Vishnu. He chants that mantra, just saying, just glorifying God, and how wonderful God is, and just the cause of all causes, and not know why I'm in this situation. I don't know why I'm here, but I know that I deserve to be here, and I know God is so great. And Vishnu hears his prayer, and eventually comes down, and seeing God and seeing that he is nothing, in his so much pain, Vijayendra reaches and offers lotus to Vishnu, just offering him that bhakti in that one moment after how many years of body ignorance, and Vishnu cuts off the crocodile's head. And so I just thought that was just an example of that one moment of realization, where Vijayendra fully got it, that I'm nothing, I'm not this body, you're the being only God, and he transcended.
Wow, thank you for sharing. Okay. Oh, yes, Prue?
It's 8:30. What's that? Oh,
You sure? If it's small, it's okay, Prue. Okay.
if you would mind just announcing if there's any more questions or comments, we can do it during.
Yeah, any more questions? We can talk about it at breakfast. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Shri Shri Radha Kalachandji ki. Thank you all for your kind attention.